All right. So hi, everyone. As you all know, this meeting is recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. Hicks108, I think, he mentioned that he wanted to discuss his ideas around code scheduling and using the permit plugin, but I'm not sure he's on the call. So I guess we can move to the next agenda item. And I think Aldo has something.
Yeah. So we were working this week on some issues with the cache produced by the fact that some pod events might come at a different time from the node events. So, for example, this could happen at a startup. So when you remove when you start up, you get some pod events, add pod events, for example, and only later you get the node events. So at this point, we have some inconsistencies between these two caches. And same when you're deleting, say you totally lose a node, then you could have the delete nodes, delete pods before or after the delete node events. So these kind of issues might cause some inconsistencies, and that could affect scheduling decisions, especially around affinity and even pod spreading. So basically, I wanted to bring this up. We are basically trying to maintain a best effort cache, which is mostly based on the node events as the source of truth. But as I said, this affects affinity, and it might be slightly different from the previous implementation for this kind of scenarios. In general, it should only take a few seconds until everything is in sync. But something like say the scheduler restarted, something like affinities could be skipped because we didn't get the node event creation yet, so we don't have labels or anything, so we can't really check for pod for node anti-affinity, for example. So yeah, that's the problem we can't get around.
So here's one thing that we probably need to clarify, and I think you looked at it, is what happens at scheduled startup. We sync. What is the sync semantics there?
So we first, before we start scheduling, we wait for the informers to sync. From the documentation, this means that as a list call was done, so we wait for the list to come, and once that's in the informers cache, we start scheduling. And the problem there is that we don't use that cache directly. We have our own cache.
I understand. And so like sync doesn't mean that you received all the events?
No, it's a separate process, a separate routine. And the problem is that the routine that runs the event handlers is not exposed, so we can't check if it's already being processed or something.
I mean, there's no function to call just to block on that guarantees that all the events on flight has been processed? Or
No,
maybe there's no way to actually do that reliably?
Probably both. So first of all, there's no exposed method, but I don't think it's an easy problem to solve anyways.
Right, yeah.
But
because you don't know when to stop or when to declare that you've synced.
Yeah, unless somehow you would like log for the informers cache to be in sync, then log that,
Right.
process all the events once,
Mhm.
and only then continue receiving the rest of the events. Something
Right.
like that, but that needs changes in the informers, uh, shared informers. So maybe we can send an email to API machinery to check if there's something that can be done.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, we can ask them for best practices around this, because I don't think this is something that is related exclusively to the scheduler. Any controller at
yeah.
startup wants to make sure that they are in a consistent state, and I don't think we make any. Definitely, we don't like those, like the client library doesn't make any guarantees around orders of events and whatnot. So yeah, I think with the changes that you're making, I don't think we are introducing a new problem. I mean, we already
Yeah,
have that
totally.
problem because a pod could have been, a new pod, not an old one, been submitted, and the event for adding that pod would have been received, in a
Mhm.
different order, and there is a chance that you would violate pod affinity at startup. I don't know if Wei has any feedback on this, or if you guys ever discussed this before, like at scheduler startup.
Yeah, I'm also recently thinking about this issue. So basically, even that API machinery can go guarantee that a event B happens after event A. But in our logic, the two events can be different types. For example, the event A can be, for example, a part being deleted. So if you check our logic, actually that's processed in a separate Go routine.
Mhm.
If event B is for a new part, because if it's a deleted part, of course, the known name has been set. So we just process that in our cache. But on the other time, on the same, I don't want to mean in the same time, but in a later time, but very slight interval after that, we got a new part. And the new part maybe is a backfill part of the deleted part, right? So the cache is still there, but we got a new part, and the new part maybe got an incorrect decision of scheduling. It's a little difficult to tackle, as I would say, but it's an area we should look into to find a solution.
So I think Aldo has an issue open, and you guys can discuss. I'll
Right.
give the mic back to Aldo.
Actually, I didn't open a specific issue for this. It was only yeah. There's an issue missing, so I'm gonna open the issue, and I'm gonna send or maybe tag some API machinery folks, see what they have to say.
Yeah. So maybe it's possibly to make it a transactional or sort of like
Well,
otherwise.
that kind of goes against the
Yes, I know that.
the general Kubernetes
Yeah,
way, but
very,
the main concern is mostly startup or when the scheduler restarts, because that's when like there are more events that could come through, and more things have a bigger chance of being wrong, of being in the wrong order.
yeah,
So
let's
yeah.
write down the potential issues in
Mhm.
scheduling. And I think my case, the case I described is a slight different than maybe the Aldo described, right? The Aldo described is sort of a node get deleted or something.
Well, yeah, it could happen during node deletion
Mhm.
or during node creation or startup when you don't have any information, but you already have a node with pods running. So in that case, you could have uh, the events come in a different order. So you get first the pod creation, and then you get the node creation for that pod.
Yeah, my case is more like even suppose we can guarantee the order arriving, but there are still problems. So yeah, let's write them down to
Okay.
distribute them and yeah, get feedback.
Okay, I'll create the issue first thing in the morning, and
Sure,
hopefully you can write the other case there as well. Sounds good?
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay. So I think, does anyone have any questions about this or any feedback or have something to say about it? Okay, so the second item on the agenda is from Hex. So that's his GitHub handler, I guess. Or I can see his name on, it's June, right? John?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, please go ahead. You wanted to talk about co-scheduling or gang scheduling. I think you pinged me the other day.
Yes. I want to confirm: is there any plan for the co-scheduling?
I'm gonna leave this to Wei.
Hi,
Wei is taking the lead on this one.
Yeah. Hi, Jane. So basically, I know that some large China companies have strong interest in that. So basically, I talk with the Alibaba guys offline. They internally have some implementation on like co-scheduling and some other batch features. So my plan is that we will set up a sub-repo. I think the timeline is that I will finish that by the end of this month. And the Alibaba guy is putting up a cap, but don't confuse with that cap with, so it's just a cap, but it doesn't mean the implementation should be in tree. The implementation can be in our sub-repo. So once that cap is open, I want the companies like Tencent and Alibaba can cooperate so that we have a cap for collecting all the requirements for the same area. Then we can have a good implementation and put it in the sub-repo. That's basically my plan.
I think it's good. It's good to first put it in a sub project, and
We cannot hear you, June.
the network is bad. Sorry.
Yeah, do you happen to know Alex Wang? He's trying to put up a cap. He has an internal version in Google Doc. He's requesting me to review that. If you can give some early feedback, or you can drop in some requirements from your companies in the production environment, that would be good.
If there is someone, we can cooperate on this, and we can discuss it offline. I can connect him.
Yeah, sure. If you want to, involve me, that's also okay.
So
Hi.
there are,
Okay.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Shingo. I'm from Japan, Tokyo, and I actually developed scheduling framework-based gang scheduling internally. So I would like to contribute that discussion and contribute to sub-level.
Sounds good. So, Wei, do you want to take like you had a plan to create a sub-repo for out of 3 plugins, right, Wei? And so we can place that. Place that
I
there.
think so. So you mean creating sub-repo for plugin sample, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
for out 3 plugins that we experiment with, and then once they get, for example, community
Oh, really?
approval, etc., there is a chance we could graduate them into the main scheduler if we find like value for them. I mean, at a much larger scale.
Okay.
Did you guys work on batch scheduling or just gang scheduling?
Actually, I worked with a gang scheduling,
Okay.
not so heavy batch scheduling, but I tried very much effort to introduce variable queue ranking algorithm based on Kubo scheduler. Actually, so I forked upstream and a little bit changed the upstream internally. So my cluster's main workload is deep learning and distributed deep learning. So very heavy batch load, and my internal scheduler works well recently.
Okay, sounds good. I think we need to make a distinction between gang scheduling and batch scheduling. I don't want it to be conflated and complicate the problem. Then we can start with gang scheduling because it's the simpler problem, which is basically trying to make sure that a group of pods are scheduled together or not. And then if there is demand and there is a reasonable way of making more and more batch scheduling primitives in the scheduler, then definitely we should do it. And I think gang scheduling is a building block towards batch scheduling.
Yes. So then let's collaborate together, Hex.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we have a platform for collaboration. And I don't know, Wei, if you want, like you said, there is a Google Doc. Do you want to share it more again with the SIG scheduling Google group so people can take a look at it?
Sure,
Oh,
sure.
okay.
I will
So it's already
okay. Open the access.
Okay, and just put a comment on the agenda there and then as well.
Sure.
And I don't know, what's the next step? Wait, do you want to create, like, I don't know. Yeah, I'll leave it
It's
to you.
one them to. So there are two things. One is the to protect the cap, and on the other hand is to set up the repo. I wanted the two items to be going forward, in parallel, so that by the end of 1.18 we can have 2 or 3 plugins ready for that. But before that, I need to think about some rendering strategies like version compatibility sort of things to make sure once our sub-repo is set up, it can be in a very good starting point to going forward.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that's the action agenda item. The last one, I don't have it here, is I'm gonna give a quick update on the migration if no one else has anything to discuss. Okay, so so the migration technically is pretty much like done. Right now we are plugin first scheduler, not predicate or priority first, which is really nice. Now we can claim that everything actually runs through the framework, and even the default scheduler or default algorithm provider is expressed in plugins and rather than predicates and priorities. And what is left is clean up behind the scenes. We cut a dependency on the daemon set controller. We have a clear path for cluster autoscaler to integrate with the framework directly, not with a scheduler. So they're not going to create a full scheduler, they will create a framework. We did go back and forth with them. They asked us for slight modifications so that they are able to continue to do the things that they are doing right now. And I think we didn't have to do anything out of the ordinary to support that. So it was really minor changes. So that will clarify our interface with them, and hopefully in the future will make it easier. Unfortunately, some of the code that we have right now in predicate and filters that does not, that calculates pre-filter state on the fly will stay. Hopefully we can clean that up in the future, but it's not it's not something that we have to care about in the near future. So what is left is a few cleanups. One of them, I think the last one of the major one of them is we have 4 predicates that the kubelet calls indirectly through a general predicate function. What I have in mind is to submit one big PR to move all of them at once to their plugins, and then because we have a cyclical dependency, so I can only do it in one PR. So we move everything, all these predicates to their plugins, and then the general predicate function will basically call the plugins. So I can't do it one plugin at a time. I have to do it at once because of the cyclical dependency. So this is, I think, the last major piece. Unless John would like to create an algorithm provider for kubelet, and that might make things a little easier. I don't know, what are your thoughts on this, Hicks?
Yes, I'm working on this for creating a algorithm for kubelet.
Algorithm provider for kubelet. Okay. Do you think you can do it like in this cycle, like in before, like soon, or? Okay, I guess we can sync on the issue offline. But that's basically the last main piece. The other 2 things that we can do in this cycle, but if we don't, it's fine, which is creating the default binding plugin, basically moving the binding logic into a plugin, and the queue sort as well. And then we can also try to make progress on Shingo's proposal related to adding extension points to update how we do preemption. I'm not sure what, like, I did read your proposal. I didn't forget about it. I was just like to try to mull it and think about it a little bit more. My hope is that if preemption becomes on of itself like a post filter plugin, or maybe it's extension point on itself, then if anyone wants to change it, they have to provide the new preemption plugin, not do pre and post preemption extension points, because it sounds to me it's a little bit too much and ties it with the current implementation of the preemption logic, the way that you're proposing it.
Yeah, I would like to discuss interfaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You would like to discuss like moving preemption into a plugin, you mean?
Yes, I think so. So my what I want to do achieve in the new extension point is custom selection of victims, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I would like to discuss more what kind of interfaces is appropriate,
right,
in the new extension point.
Okay.
Yeah. So I understand what you meant. My proposal is a little bit tight coupling with the current victim selection interfaces.
Right.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Sounds good. Like, just bear in mind that this is something that we might not get to in this cycle. It will probably be in 1.9.
Yeah, next cycle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's
Okay.
better. Yeah, and so I would like to ask you about the scheduler extenders feature. Is there any agreement in the community about the future of extender?
Nothing that I know of. Like, there is
Okay.
no active discussion around this. It's
Okay.
something that some people are using, and that's why we'll continue to maintain. It has a V1 configuration API. So if we are going to deprecate it, it will have to be, follow the deprecation policy of 1 year after announcement.
Okay.
So it's a stable feature. But if you have any suggestions how to improve it, please feel free to create issues.
Oh, I just worried about the migration of framework.
No, it's
yeah.
still supported. Like, it's not.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes. I just want to talk about one last issue if no one else has anything to comment on. Aldo, did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. There were a couple of issues that was raised related to priorities and head of line blocking. I think we do have an issue there in the current scheduler. We need to think about how to solve. I think you're already tagged on those issues. Although I'm not sure if you are. I'm gonna tag you on them. It's a problem that will come more and more. Become bigger once people start to use clusters at larger scale with more heterogeneous workloads. Basically the problem is that if you have a high priority pod that can't be scheduled, or a bunch of them that can't be scheduled, the scheduler will keep trying to schedule them and basically stealing scheduling cycles from other lower priority pods that can be scheduled. And so the whole scheduler becomes slower, and at some point we can get to a point of starvation. And so we either need to think of new heuristics to improve that. We already have the back-off logic there. Or start thinking about multi-queues, or maybe make recommendations related to multiple schedulers, and so forth.
Yeah, or how about taking consideration about the number of failed scheduling in the queue sort or something?
Yeah, that's what I said about, like, trying to think about new heuristics. If those and my problem with these heuristics that people are proposing really interesting heuristics is that how do we evaluate them? How do we make sure that those work for people who are already using the scheduler currently, and we and we don't impact the current behavior that they are used to, and we basically committed to so far. I just want to make sure that we have a way to evaluate those things, not just, oh, this is a nice heuristic, but most of the heuristic that's been proposed, they overfit on the type of workload that the person is dealing with. And that's what worries me about these types of heuristics. They are not bulletproof, and I just would like to see some sort of like methodical way of evaluating them and making sure that they don't have a negative impact on current workloads.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so that's all I have. We are 1 minute over time. Anyone have any questions or feedback or last discussion items? All right, see you guys next week. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
You bet.